Hi guys, I'm Damian Krychowski and I would like to welcome you to the 7th part of our SQL course for the beginners. Today we are going to learn about SQL inserts, but before that let me introduce you to the platform you are going to use today. The platform is SQL Sandbox and this is our latest product which allows you to work with SQL in your web browsers. Before we start working on SQL inserts today, we need to do two things. First of all, we need to scroll down to exercises set and find basic insert set. We need to expand it and we need to click prepare database button. We need to confirm the operation and after that our database should be filled in with one table, products table, and that's the table we are going to use for today's inserts. When that's ready, we need to scroll up and we need to click Open Database button. We should see SQL Editor, which consists of a couple of elements. The first one is here. This is a workspace, and this is the place which we are going to use to put our SQL queries in. On the left side, we see the toolbox. There is a list of tables. There is only one table, which is products, and that was the table which was created during this preparation phase. When we expand it, we see the list of columns inside the table. Now we are ready to start. To insert new record into a table, we need to prepare a correct script. We could either type it in manually or we could use a shortcut for that. And let's maybe try that. So we need to hover over the products table, right click on it, go to script and find the insert script. Let's click it and we see that our workspace has been filled in with a skeleton of a script. Let's maybe dive into it and see how the script looks like. So we see that there is insert into, and this is the syntax for insertion. After the into keyword, we need to type in the name of the table we want to insert new record into. So this is a product. This is the products table. After that, inside the brackets, we need to provide a list of columns. And right now, all the columns are provided, but it doesn't necessarily need to be like that because we could provide only a subset of columns, but we are going to talk about that later on. And after the columns are provided, there is values keyword. Next, brackets are being opened, and we see a list of question marks, which are just placeholders for the values which we need to provide. What is important is that the list of values need to be in the exact order the columns are provided. So the first value will be for product ID, the second will be for product name, the third will be for category, etc., etc. So maybe let's start with all the values. How do we know what kind of values we need to put there in? We can take a look at the list of columns, and each column has a type which is associated with the column, and we see that product ID is integer, which is a number, product name is text, category is text, price is real, which means that this is a number with decimal values, stock quantity integer, supplier text, date added text. It is a text, but it needs to be provided in the correct format. I am going to show you that in a minute. And then description. So let's start. First, product ID, let's start with 1. Then product name, let's call it product 1. To put in a text value, we need to open quotes, and these are the single quotes which we need to use. Then category, again, we open quotes, category 1. Then price, which is real number, so let's say 19.99. This is a dot in here. Stock quantity, let's say 10. Supplier 1, date added, and the format for date is year 2023 dash month dash day. And now the last one, which is description. And when we execute the script, let's execute it, we see that we got response last ID 1 changes 1, which means that there was one record inserted, changes 1, and the last ID which got inserted into the table is 1. How to see if it actually worked? We obviously need to run very basic select statement. So select asterisk from products, and when we highlight it and execute it, we see that we have exactly one product with product ID equal to 1, product name 1, so basically all the values which we have previously provided here. What would happen if we would try to run the exact same insert script again? Let's maybe try it. So let me highlight it, execute selection, and we see we got an error. What does it mean? SQL constraint, unique constraint failed, products.productID. So SQL engine says that we cannot insert new record with the product ID value which we used because it is already occupied by a different record. Why the unique? Why this value need to be unique? Because of the fact that the column product ID is a primary key of the table. Primary key of the table means that it is a value which uniquely identifies each row inside the table. So every single row needs to have a different value of product ID. If we would try to change this value, let's say to number 2, without even changing any other values for different columns and execute it right now, we would see that our operation worked correctly. Let's try to select all the products from the table again. And we see that right now we have 2 records. The second one has product ID equal to 2. And all the values are the same because this is the values which we actually used inside the script. And that is totally allowed. If we would take a closer look at the list of columns in here, and in particular product ID column, we would notice that beside having this PK annotation, there is also auto increment 1. And what does it mean that a column is auto incremented? It means that if we will not specify an exact value for the column to be, SQL engine will be smart enough to take the next available value for us. Let's try to do it. We can do it in 2 ways. The first way is to pass null in here instead of the exact value. And if we would do it and execute this script, we see that script worked. Last ID is 3, change is 1. Let's try to run it one more time. It worked again, and now the last ID is 4. And when we select all the products from the table, we will notice that right now we have 4 records, and those 2 news have incremented product ID values. So the next one is 3 and then 4. So the SQL engine knew exactly which values he should use not to violate this unique constraint of the primary key column. What would happen if we would inserted a value which is much higher than the ones which has been used, and then allowed SQL engine to decide which value to use again? So let's try to do it. I can, for example, insert a product with 100 as a product ID. Let's run it. Okay, it worked. Let's see. We see that we have this product with 100 as a product ID value. And right now, when I will get rid of it, so I will put null in here and ask SQL engine to fill that value for us instead and execute that script, we notice that it was smart enough to know that the next value is 101. So why did it not took, for example, 6 or 7? They were also free, so he could potentially use it without violating the unique constraint. And that's because the auto increment has some subtle behavior. It always makes sure to create a new value which is greater than all the previous values. So it is always growing. So it makes sure that product ID is always growing whenever we insert a new record into a table. And the other thing is that if we would delete a record, and for example, 101 was available again, and try to insert again, auto increment would not reuse it, because it also makes sure that all the new records have its unique but fresh values. So if the value has already been used, even though the record could be deleted in the meantime, it won't be used again. This is how this auto increment behaves. Okay, I told you that there is a second way for the auto increment to work, except providing the null. we could get rid of that column whatsoever from the list. So just let's remove it. We need to also remember to remove the value because the values need to match exactly one-to-one to the list of provided columns. And when we execute the script now, we see that it worked again, even though the product ID was not specified at all. It was smart enough to know that it is auto-incremented column, so he has simply taken the next value and created a record for us. Let's try to select all the products from the table. And we see that we have our new record inserted correctly. Okay, so we see that I have skipped product ID column from the insert script and it worked fine. Is it possible to get rid of different columns as well? Yes, it is. We can provide only those columns which are required for the record to be inserted. But how to know which columns are required? To learn that, we need to take a look at the list of columns in here. And we can notice that some of the columns have this not null annotation next to them. It means that that column requires a value to be provided no matter what. It doesn't allow nulls, which basically means that this column cannot be empty. And SQL engine will make sure not to allow us insert a record which would have column marked as not null to be empty. Which are these columns? So product name, price, and stock quantity. So let's maybe try to get rid of all the other columns and we will see what happens. Okay, so product name is required, so we leave it. Category is not required, so we will remove it and we will remove the corresponding value. Price, not null, so we leave it. Stock quantity, not null, so we leave it as well. And all the rest are allows nulls, so we can get rid of them. So I will remove them. I will also remove the corresponding values because we always need to remember that the list of values need to match exactly the list of columns. And when I try to execute script like that, we see that it worked. And I can try one more time. I will create a new product name and it worked again. So let's try to select all the products from the table. Let me increase the number of items per page. Okay, we see that we have those two products inserted correctly and the columns which we have skipped in our insertions are empty, which means that they were assigned with null values. Okay, that's fine. But what would happen if we would skip one of those required columns? Let's maybe try it. So I will remove stock quantity and I will remove the corresponding value. And let's execute script like that. And we see that we got an error. SQLite constraint, not null constraint failed. Products, stock quantity. As I said, SQL engine guards us and makes sure that we will not insert anything which would violate specified constraints. That's how it works. SQL insert allows us to do one more interesting thing. We can insert many records at once. How to do it? We just need to provide a set of values for each record separated with a comma. To do that, at first, let's maybe undo this operation when we deleted the stock quantity from the script, because all of those three columns are required. And maybe let's stick to those three columns for now. But obviously, we could execute that insertion for more columns if we would like to. And now we need to provide these sets of values for each record we want to insert. So I added comma after the first set of values. Then I open the brackets, type in the values. So product 2, price 18.99, quantity 5. Remember that each set of values need to correspond exactly the set of columns provided at the beginning of the script. And maybe one more. So product 3, let's say 15.99, and let's say 3. We doesn't need to worry about formatting of the SQL because it doesn't really matter for the SQL engine if we would push those to separate lines. It doesn't matter. Let's leave it as it is. Let's highlight it and let's try to execute it. And we see that right now we got last ID equal to 107, but changes is equal to 3, which means that 3 records has been inserted and that pretty much looks okay to the script we have executed. Let's try to select all the products now, and we see that we got our 3 products, so product 1, product 2 and product 3 with the corresponding product IDs, and this is exactly what we have achieved with our insert script, which inserts more than one record. And one last thing for today. Let's try to generate the insert script again. So let's move our mouse over the products table, right click on it, scripts and insert script. And we see that it has inserted a skeleton of insert script into new editor. And let's provide all the values again. So I will use some higher number of product ID, doesn't really matter, just make sure that this is unique. Product name, category, price, stock quantity, supplier, date added, and description. Okay, so in a situation like that we provided all the values for all the columns in the table, we can skip the list of columns in the script. So I could simply remove that part of the script and leave it as it is now. So insert into product values and the list of all the values for all the columns. And when we execute the script like that, we see that it worked. So this is kind of a shortcut. When we know that we are providing all the columns in here, we don't need to specify the columns names below. It allows us to create a little shorter and more concise script. What would happen if we would remove one of the columns in here? So let's say description, and let's try to execute it now. We see that it won't work. SQLite error, table products has 8 columns, but 7 values were supplied. So when we are going to use that shorter version of a script, we need to make sure that we always provide all the values for all the columns. This is how it looks like. I hope you like today's lesson. If you would like to practice, and I think this is the best way to learn SQL, you can always go back to our exercises set, expand this basic insert exercises set, and you can execute all of these exercises on your own. To do it, you just need to prepare a database and then click this button, and it will open SQL editor for you in a different mode. It has this additional description of the exercise. Here is the goal of the exercise. You can take a look at the hint, and when you will create a script which in your opinion matches the descriptions and fulfills the exercise goal, you can click this button here and it will check the script for you and give you information if you succeeded or not. So then you can move to the next exercise. If that is not enough for you, you can always expand our smart assistant and ask him to generate 10 or 5 different exercises so that you can practice insert operation. I hope you liked the lesson. I hope we'll see again on the 8th lesson of our course, and have a nice day. Bye bye.